guys, so today we're gonna learn the anterior thigh muscles, their origin, insertion, their shape, function, blood supply, nerve supply, and all about those. The anterior thigh muscles are basically the flexors of the thigh and the extensors of the knee. So here I'm writing these are the flexors of thigh and extensors of knee. The anterior thigh muscles are all supplied by their arterial supply is femoral artery, venous supply would be all like femoral vein, and the nerve supply is femoral nerve. Right? So the first muscle of the anterior thigh region is sartorius. This muscle is also known as Taylor's muscle. And this muscle is the longest muscle of the body. The shape of the sartorius is strip-like. The origin of the sartorius is from the anterior superior iliac spine. Anterior superior iliac spine. And its insertion is on the medial side of the radius. Medial surface of radius. Its function is as usual like all the other anterior thigh muscles. Its function is the flexion of the thigh and the extension of the knee. So flexion of thigh. And yes, it helps in the cross-legged sitting position. When we put our one leg on the other leg and we sit like it's called a cross-legged position. So it helps in the cross-legged position. The next is the nerve's blood supply. As like all the other anterior thigh muscles, its blood supply is by the femoral artery, its nerve supply is by the femoral nerve. So here I am writing its blood supply is by the femoral artery and this is by femoral nerve. So now one more thing about the sartorius is that it abducts the thigh. It abducts thigh. And yes, it laterally rotates the thigh too. Laterally rotates or externally rotates thigh. The next muscle is quadricep femoris. It basically consists of 4 muscles. The 3 are the vasti muscles and the 4th one is rectus femoris. The 5th muscle can be said as a part of the quadricep femoris, but it is not said because it is not involved in the quadricep tendon, which is inserted into the radius. So the quadricep femoris consists of 4 muscles that are 3 vasti and rectus femoris. The 3 vasti are the vasti lateralis, vasti medialis and the vasti intermedius. So the next thing about the quadricep femoris is that it is 3 times more stronger than its opposite one, which is the hamstring muscles, which consist of the semitendinous, semimembranous and the bicep femoris, which are on the posterior thigh region. So here I am writing that it is the 3 times more stronger than hamstrings. Right? The next thing about the quadricep femoris is that they are the extensors of the leg and the flexors of the thigh, as usual, all the anterior thigh muscles. And yes, it absorbs jerking, shock, of heel strike. Now what is it? When we put our heel on the ground, so there produces a reflex, or we can say that a jerking shock. So quadricep femoris basically absorb that and helps in the movement. So it also helps in the downhill movement, downhill walking, and the descending stairs movement. So it helps in descending stairs. Descending stairs and downhill walking. Stairs and downhill walking. Right? And the next thing about this is that all the quadricep components, which are 3 vasti and the 1 rectus femoris, insert into the patella in the distal portion, and it forms a band like of the 4 muscles. And one more thing about the quadricep femoris is that the tendons of the quadricep femoris forms the patellar ligament. So the tendon of quadricep femoris forms patellar ligament. Right? Now the 3 vasti muscles. These are vasti lateralis, vasti intermedius, vasti medialis. Right? The vasti lateralis and the medialis can be seen on the anterior thigh region without any incision or cutting of any muscle. But the vasti intermedius is deep to the rectus femoris, so we have to cut the rectus femoris in order to see the vasti intermedius. The origin of the vasti muscles are from the femur shaft anterior surface, right? The insertion of the vasti muscles are in the patella by the help of the quadricep tendons. So it is in the patella through the quadricep tendons, right? And the next thing about this is that the vasti lateralis is the longest among these 3. Is the longest. And here I am writing the vasti intermedius is deep to the rectus femoris. Right? Now the next is articularis genu. Basically it is not the muscle of the quadricep femoris, but yes, it is derived from the vasti intermedius. So it is derived from the vasti intermedius. Its origin is like the vasti intermedius. So vasti intermedius also origin from the femur shaft. So it also gained its origin from the femur shaft, and the same its insertion is in the synovial membrane covering the knee joint. So it helps in the pulling of the synovial membrane, so that during the extension of the leg, no folds of the membrane from being suppressed between the femur and the patella within the knee joint. So here I am writing, it pulls the synovial membrane during extension of leg, so preventing folds of membrane from being compressed, because if the folds are compressed, so the synovial membrane itself is also compressed. So to prevent the synovial membrane from being compressed between the femur and patella, the articular genu is present there, right? The last muscle is rectus femoris. The rectus femoris is also called kicking muscle. So the rectus femoris is kicking muscle, right? Its origin is by the two heads, the straight head and the reflected head. The straight head originates from the anterior superior iliac spine, while the reflected head origins from above the acetabulum. Its insertion is same as all the other quadricep femoris muscles in the patella through the quadricep tendon, right? And the function of the rectus femoris is on the hip joint and the knee joint. So act on hip joint and the knee joint. Now here our muscles introduction is all completed. Now we'll move onward for the figure. Here is the figure of the anterior thigh muscles. We'll move on by one by one, and in the next video we'll also draw its figure. So the first muscle I told you was the sartorius. The sartorius basically passes from the lateral side to the medial side. So here is our anterior superior iliac spine. Sartorius extends from the anterior superior iliac spine to the medial shaft of the radius and inserts its here. This is the quadricep tendon, right? And the next muscle I told you was the quadricep femoris. Basically, the quadricep femoris consisted of the four muscles. The first one was the vasta lateralis. The vasta lateralis, by its name, we can identify that it is on the lateral side. So this is our vasta lateralis, right? And above the vasta lateralis, this is our tensor fascia lata, as we discussed in our last video on the gluteal region. This now the next muscle is, I told you, was vasta medialis. Vasta medialis, by its name we can identify it would be on the medial side. How can we differentiate that which one is the medial and which one is the lateral side? This way we can identify this by this is our pubic tubercle. Pubic tubercle is basically found on the medial side and anterior superior iliac spine on the lateral side. And here extends our inguinal ligament, which is also called Popper's ligament, right? And this is our vasta medialis muscle on the medial side. Now I told the next thing I told you was the vasta intermedius cannot be seen without cutting, without incision, because it is beneath or deep to the rectus femoris. So here is vasta lateralis, here is vasta medialis. This one is rectus femoris, which is a bipinnate muscle. So let me show you another figure in which we can see the vasta intermedius. Here is our vasta intermedius muscle. We have incised or cut the rectus femoris muscle. Here is the cut section of the rectus femoris, you can see. And this is our vasta intermedius muscle. This is vasta lateralis and this is vasta intermedius. Vasta medialis, intermedius and lateralis, right? So revising all the insertions and origins, the sartorius extends from the anterior superior iliac spine to the medial surface of the radius. Here is another diagram of the muscles of the anterior thigh muscles. I'll show you here their origin and the insertion one by one. The first muscle was the sartorius. Here is our anterior superior iliac spine. So this is our sartorius muscle origin. And as I told you, it inserts in the medial surface of the radius. So here is our sartorius muscle, the medial side of the radius. And here are the vasta lateralis, medialis, and the vasta intermedius. So as you can see that here is the vasta lateralis, here is the vasta intermedius, and this is our vasta medialis. Vasta medialis here from the medial side, vasta lateralis here from the lateral side, and the vasta intermedius most laterally its origin, and they all insert into the patella. The next muscle is the articularis genu. The genu is nothing but a part of the vasta intermedius. So here the vasta intermedius origin basically extends from the posterior femur to the anterior femur. So this is the anterior view of the femur. Here extends our vasta intermedius, and this is the articularis genu. Next and the last muscle is rectus femoris. The rectus femoris originates by the two heads. The one is straight head and the next is oblique head, or the reflected head. Sorry. The straight head origins from the anterior inferior iliac spine, and the reflected head origins from above the acetabulum. This is acetabulum where the head of the femur is inserted, and this is our rectus femoris origin. Here is the quadricep femoris tendons inserted. Some of its tendons pass to the patella and inserts here. So this is the quadricep femoris, including the rectus femoris, vastus lateralis, vastus intermedius, and vasti medialis via the patellar ligament. Right? So here we completed our anterior thigh muscles discussion. In the next video we'll draw its diagram, and further on we'll discuss its arterial supply briefly and the nerve supply briefly on. Thank you so much. Like, share, and subscribe my channel, and the picture of this notes I'll drop in my description box below on my Facebook page. Thank you so much.